So there are a lot of beautiful pictures to take, but it's really hard to take them while moving. So it's a good place to have a GoPro and a GoPro or something like that attached to you, because if you don't have it attached, then you're probably not going to be able to get the pictures. I don't think there's too many people that are going to be able to hold a GoPro or some other camera and then run or get through the difficulties. There is a guy, and I don't know how to say his name, and maybe I'll link it in this video, but there is a guy that ran the course with a GoPro 360. I think it's a 360, and he did a great job of recording all of it. Obviously he's an expert runner, and also at holding the GoPro while he's going about his business. But it's definitely not easy, because you need your arms, your hands to help you balance and to move through the course. Let me see. I would suggest being careful, especially if you're, an amateur or novice at this. Obviously, you're going to be more than just a couch potato to be able to do this and finish something like this. But if you're an amateur or novice, be careful about jumping off the high steps through the first half of the race, and just kind of leaping through the air. You might want to take it easy and slow, because that is going to wear at your knees and your joints and your tendons. And then when you get to the second half, which I'll call the second half, the second peak, there is even more of that. And then even after that, there's still more to come after that. So you really have to pace yourself quite well and not be overly zealous about flying down the route. Of course, this doesn't really go for the professionals or the elites, but they probably aren't coming here to watch this video and learn about the run. They're probably already done much more difficult runs and are familiar with running on these type of mountains quite often. Let's see. So afterwards, legs are extremely fatigued, not really sore. I did have a little bit of soreness around my knees, not necessarily joint soreness, just kind of muscle soreness, tendon soreness. Took a couple ibuprofen. That seemed to take care of that pretty quick. Not that big of a deal. Speaking of taking things, I did end up taking or chewing on 4 creatine chews, and I don't know if it's just me or if it really did seem to help out, but it seemed to help out with the fatigue, the muscle fatigue. Unfortunately, 4 was probably too many, and not for the muscles, because the muscles needed that much, I'm sure, but for the stomach. So I need to practice with more of that, maybe take 2 every hour or something. And I don't even know if it's helpful. I know creatine phosphate, monophosphate, is going to be consumed as energy pretty much as soon as it gets to the cells. But you never know if I shouldn't say you never know, maybe research already shows it, but you never know if the creatine monophosphate in the cells is prioritized over creatine monophosphate that's coming through the bloodstream or not. And it's been a long time since I looked at that research. But based off the ideology of replace what's getting used up, well, if we're using up our glycogen stores and our glucose, and we're using up our fat stores, and we're using some protein, even though protein's not stored to be energy, but we still end up using it, then why not supplement with creatine monophosphate? Because it is also a store of energy, and if the body is using it, especially in this explosive burst type exercise, then it makes sense to me that it would be useful. I should do some research and see if mountain runners utilize creatine monophosphate and how much is used and how that relates to, you know, lactic acid buildup and all these other signs of and symptoms of fatigue, because I definitely had some muscle fatigue, but not necessarily a lot of muscle soreness. Like on that Korea 50K, my hamstrings were just shot. That was the biggest thing for me, is my hamstrings were just so worn out, sore, painful, and fatigued. And on this one, I could power up the hills pretty easy, relatively speaking. Nothing's easy, but relatively speaking, I could get up them where other people were stopping. It was the coming down, and then also the just towards the last couple hours, just the overall fatigue that set in. So that's that. What else? I did this race with this guy named Nam, Richard Nam. That's his Americanized English name, but his real name is Korean, which I don't know what it is. And he wanted to stop at the typical checkpoints and eat the typical checkpoint food, so I did that with him. And I'll have to say the burgers, they're Korean burgers, so they're kind of white inside. The meat is very pale. I don't know if it's a different kind of beef or if there's something added to the beef that makes it like that. But whatever it was about the burger, it did not settle well with me, and it gave me a little bit of indigestion. Not enough to really affect my performance, because my performance was just very novice anyhow. But you never want to feel discomfort in your gut, and I haven't had any discomfort in the past two, so all I can relate it to is either the creatine or the burger. And the burger had tomato, lettuce, and a little bit of sauce, and it was only half a burger, so it wasn't even that much. And it might be some kind of a processed burger meat and not actual just straight out ground beef also. So I would caution against that. It's one of those things where you plan out what you're going to do and then you stick with the plan. Although things come up, and I was lucky enough to run with a Korean guy that knew some English, and so I wanted to make the most of that experience. And then also we stopped at one of the checkpoints to have some soup. I just had rice and green onion in the soup with the broth that had mushrooms and some meat, but not very much. Did not have that much at all. But everybody else had a lot of like kimchi type stuffs in there, and I know that kimchi type stuffs will put me in the bathroom about a half an hour after I eat it. That's my experience with kimchi at home or at a restaurant, so I did not want that to happen. Because that's also another point on this trail. There are not very many bathrooms, toilets, restrooms, whatever you want to call it. I found one that was just kind of a squatter toilet. If you're familiar with Asia, you know what that is. And then let me see, the checkpoints usually had some kind of bathrooms, but they were few and far between, and not all the checkpoints had bathrooms. So be that as it is, you either have to hold your bladder, not drink very much, or duck off into the bushes a couple of times, and when there were trees to duck off into, they were pretty thin, so it's not a lot of area to hide behind, and I didn't see anybody else doing it, so I didn't want to be the only one. But in addition to that, there was this tall grass, which I did go off into a couple of times, and there are lots of areas that tall grass, there'll be signs that say don't go out there, but they usually are roped off. They don't want additional trails going up this mountain and ruining the nature of it. So anyhow, those are some additional thoughts, and as I have more, I will definitely speak to them. All right, peace out. Well, we are in some very slow standstill traffic because of an accident up here, so we will see. This has been about a half an hour, probably another half hour before we can get going here. Oh, another thought about the run yesterday is bottoms of my feet got sore. I can feel the soreness in my feet. Ankles, no problem. I didn't roll any of my ankles or twist them or spin them or anything like that. Bottoms of my feet got sore though, just a little bit. On a scale of 1 to 10, probably a 2 or a 3. But I've never noticed that before, so I noticed that. I don't think it really slowed me down. Probably couldn't go any slower, honestly. But that didn't seem to be a problem. And then I also mentally and purposely thought about not saying anything bad about any soreness or my knees or my feet. It may have crossed my mind, and then I'd let it go, or my stomach, it may have crossed my mind, and then I'd let it go, but I wouldn't verbalize it out loud, and I wouldn't complain about it. And I really do think that that helped out, and I just kept reminding myself to just keep doing hard work and do hard things. So just a thought again about what I was doing. I think that's about it. Here's another thought I had, and I'm not sure if it's based off of what I've listened to, which I listen to a lot of Chad Wright podcast. He's a Christian ultramarathon runner that has podcasts, YouTube, etc. And I find a lot of good advice in what he says. And one of the things he talks about is I find I also experience the same. So maybe my experience is because of his experience, or maybe mine is just intrinsic from me. I don't use the headphones when I run. All 3 of these races, I haven't used headphones. I bring them just in case. I might want to listen to them, but I never really even find the smallest desire to pull them out. I'm just in the moment, and I think about the moment, and I think about what he calls a systems check, which is the same thing we used to call it in the Army when we were working on the weapons. And I think about my feet, my shoes, my legs, my calves, and my thighs, my quads. I think about my hips, just all the way up to the top. I think about my eyes. I think about my posture. I think about, are my glutes going to be worn out, or if my glutes start feeling sore, what can I do to change that? I think about, should I stand more, run more upright, and I keep my hands behind my back like you see a lot of Koreans do, to keep that posture. Am I pressing down hard enough with my legs? How do my shoulders feel? what have I eaten, when time it is, when am I next going to eat. I'm not too concerned about the time of the race. Again, I'm not one of the elites, but I don't think the elites probably worry about the time of the race either. They probably just run and know their time already. Since I'm just trying to complete it, and then God-given complete it in the time requirements, thinking about, okay, if it's been an hour, have I taken my salts? If even if I don't feel like taking them, if I take my salts, do I need to drink a little bit more water to wash them down? Think about when's the next place I can fill up my water bottle without stopping out of my bladder, the water bladder. I think about what have I eaten, what have I not eaten. Of course, this time I did think about what I eat and not eat a lot, because I had prepared all these drink mixes and not yet added water to them. Yet I ate the Korean aid station food. Oh, I'll say a little rice cake kind of thing, like a mochi snack. And that was good. I don't know if this is the best thing that I should have eaten, but I did eat it. And then it was good. It was something to chew on for a while. And then later on, I remembered that I had been given a gel from one of the aid station workers. He had a big box of them. I don't know if they're advertising for them or not. And I did eat that down. And I think that gel, I'm not even sure if it was plums or smushed grapes or prunes or what. It had kind of a smushed fruit consistency. The only words I could read on the front were amino acids. The rest of it was all in Korean, so I couldn't read it. But it did taste good. I was wishing I kind of had a whole handful of those, so that when my legs started fatigue later on, I could consume them. And even if they didn't help, at least I could think it was helping. And it'd be something else to put in my mouth and not think about the leg fatigue. But anyhow, I never verbalized any of that stuff. I think about all these other things just constantly. And then in this one in particular, I was really trying hard to think about, you know, what are my surroundings? What am I looking at? What am I missing? Hold my head up. You end up holding your head down so long because you're looking at your next step, that you miss a lot of beautiful scenery around. So I looked up as often as I could, every chance I could, and I also noticed I could hear the wind going through the grass and the rustling and the whistling of the grasses, which was really, really awesome. I could hear the cawing of the crows, or the mockingbirds probably, mockingjays, mockingbirds. And then I listened to, there was some songbirds in there that really weren't singing a song, but they were just tweeting. So I listened to that, and I just really tried hard to be in the moment, but not just in the moment of each step, but also in the moments of the surrounding around me, and just trying to soak it all in, not thinking about going fast, not thinking about going too hard. Again, just trying my best to just really enjoy the experience. And even when my steps got really short and slow, because my legs were obviously very fatigued towards the end, I still realized that and thought, well, they're going to be fatigued. There's nothing I can do about that. But what I can do is I can look at these mountains, and I can look around and see the beauty in the nature. And even when I looked up and I saw, oh, there's one more mountain, one more mountain, one more mountain, I thought, well, you know, really, it might be a mountain, but what's in front of me is just one more step, just one more step. So just take that next step, just take that next step, and before you know it, you'll be at the top of the mountain. And so often, that's exactly what happened. I would just keep taking steps, and then all of a sudden, oh, I was at the top, and we're going back down. And every time you go down, there's another one to go to the top. But that's just one more step, one more step. And I found that very liberating and relaxing, to just keep taking one more step, not think about what's ahead of me, not even look that far ahead of me, just maybe 3-6 feet in front of me. And then when I had the chance to look up and look around, but not look at the obstacle that's in front of me, just look at the nature that's around me. All right, until the next random thought, that's it.